Hello, moms. How are you today? Hey, it's sort of a dreary day, isn't it? It's been rainy this week, and I am wondering what you all are doing in your homes to entertain the kids during this rainy week. So let me know what you're doing. Good morning, Haley. Are you going nuts? Tell me what it's like. You know, at church, we are trying to provide ways to minister to families, and we are struggling a little bit. When we first were all quarantined under the stay-at-home order back in March, we began feverishly as a church trying to find ways to minister to families, and we began to post lots of things online. We began to do Mary Beth storytelling. I have been posting in Mom to Mom. We have done all kinds of extra online avenues for you through Christtown and through Mary Beth's Power Up program from our curriculum that we use. And we are now at a point where we think that you all are having some you're overwhelmed with all of the online options between school and church and friends and everybody wanting to get online to visit with each other. And so you're a bit weary of it. And so I just need some feedback from you all on that. If you agree or you are still eagerly waiting for more things to hear and to learn. And so let me know how you're doing with that. So I've asked you 2 questions today. What are you doing to entertain the family this week since it's been such a rainy week? And number 2, are you a little bit weary, worn of all of the online opportunities, because we want to know how best to minister to you. So it's good to see all of you joining us today. I am so glad to be here on our final Mom to Mom Thursday morning Facebook Live. Yes, this will be the last live lesson, and then for the next 4 weeks, I'm going to do something different. It's going to be a parent-to-parent approach, so hopefully dads will be able to tune in also. I will be teaching 4 lessons that all, let's see here, let me see how I have titled these. It's how to get obedience using your parent's job description and the children's job description. So I'm going to talk about what those jobs really are, how they look, and how to promote faith development in your children. And then I'm going to talk about a series of the letter C, and that's building the conscience in your child so that the child is learning on his own what to do and what not to do, what is right and what is wrong. So promoting the conscience, and then using the conscience for correction and consequences with currency. So those are the C's we're going to be looking at. So next week I will be posting those. I will put it on a variety of platforms. I'm going to put it on my personal page. I will put it on the Mom to Mom page. I will put it on Married with Children, and it will be on the church website, the church Facebook page, and my own personal YouTube channel. So about 6 ways for people to access that information. I hope that you will share that information with others and spread that my videos to others. I would love for you to do that. Well, let's get in with our lesson for today. I've titled this, How to Teach Kids the Art of Persuasion. Well, when I was a high school English teacher, I taught students how to write a persuasive essay. There is an art to persuasion. There are a lot of factors that need to be considered when you are trying to persuade somebody else to do something, especially if they're a little reluctant to do what you want them to do. And let's be honest, aren't our kids a little reluctant to do the things we do very often? So this persuasive argument I am teaching is how to appeal wisely. It's a wise appeal. It's a really good strategy for children who have developed some maturity to handle it. And it can even be taught to young children. As I've been thinking about the appropriate age group to begin this, I take into consideration my grandchildren, and I have, of the 5 that we have, there are one is 4 and one is 5. And I was trying to think about how that would look for them to teach them the wise appeal. And I think it would work well. I think it's when you really start teaching children how to persuade people to do something. Now, this is going to come with a lot of practice, and you also want to keep in mind the maturity level of the child. But what I've been thinking is that 4 and 5 is when you start teaching them to behave maturely and to think maturely. And so I think it will work for them. I would be interested in feedback. So this approach of the art of persuasion, or the wise appeal, is an alternative to kids whining and arguing with you when you have asked them to do something that they do not want to do. Now, the reason they might do this, let's think about why they argue with you and why they might whine. Well, one reason it might be that they are just being disobedient and they're not honoring you. And that their whining is an inappropriate response. It could be that the timing that you're asking them to do something is off. We've spent a lot of time looking at timing for you asking your child to do something, and it could be the timing is off, like they're in the middle of something really important, like a teenager who is in the middle of a project, or they are really in an important conversation they're having with someone. They are maybe doing something that you had already asked them to do, or something that they think is truly important. And maybe it is and maybe it isn't, but this wise appeal is going to help you to figure that out. Maybe that what you're asking them to do, they think is too hard for them, and they need further explanation. They need to know a little bit more information about what you're asking them to do. So again, think about what you're asking them to do. And then we're going to teach them how to use this art of persuasion. Now, the art of persuasion is not just a ploy for them to get their way and to always use this strategy whenever they don't want to do something. That's not going to work. And you are going to be able to see through that. And then they lose the privilege of the wise appeal. You know, I encourage you to find your own name for that. I'm calling it the art of persuasion because that's what I think is a good grown-up concept, that we understand what it means to persuade people. It's also a kind of writing, persuasive writing, but you might call it the wise appeal, as Dr. Scott Turansky does and Joanne Miller in their parenting books. They call it the wise appeal. You can call it whatever you want to in your home. So it's not just a ploy for them to get their own way. It's a strategy to teach your children to use once they understand this principle in life. It is important to honor and obey your parents. And once you get that concept down, good things are going to come to you. That's what Scripture tells us. Children, obey your parents. And when you do that, good things will come. It is a way to get blessings in life, and begin teaching your children that it is a way for good things to come to them. And one of those good things is they might be able to persuade you to change something that you have said you were going to do, and give them a little leeway. Now, if they have some issue with something that you have wanted them to do, they want you to reconsider your request, your request or your instruction. Okay, remember we've talked about the difference between those two. So when you give a request or an instruction, they might have some problem with it. They might have some issue that they need to make known. And what you're going to teach them is how to do this respectfully. So the wise appeal is a communication tool that children can use not only with you as parents, but also with any other adult or other person in authority, or they can use it with other children. They can use it with their friends. It's an appropriate tool to get somebody to move off the mark of what they've asked for and be a little more considerate of some situation. And let me tell you this, it's great in marriage also. Because what you're going to see is there are going to be 3 steps to this. There are going to be 3 things that I want you to write down that you're going to teach your children that you can also use with your spouse. So the wise appeal is a privilege, and it is a privilege that a child gets when he or she has learned obedience. When they have learned to have the right attitude when you make a request or give an instruction for them to do. They have learned to do this without arguing and complaining. Again, this is going to be a wonderful kind of reward for them for getting down the road that far with their maturity of obedience and honoring. So when you ask your child to do something, they can appeal your request. It's kind of like going before a judge and the attorney is saying, Your Honor, if it please the court, would you consider? That's what it's like. It's persuasion. It's an argument in the best sense of the word because you're arguing for yourself. You're advocating for yourself. They can use the wise appeal following this formula. So this is where I want you to write down these 3 things. After you've given a request or given a suggestion or given actually an instruction for the child to do something, they can say these 3 things. The first one, Mom, I know that you want me to. Mom, I know that you want me to, and then you fill in the blank with whatever. Wash the dishes, feed the dog, walk the dog. Do your whatever chore, whatever thing you've asked them to do. So they say that first. Mom, I know you want me to. Number 2, they say, I have a problem right now with that because. I have a problem with that right now because. That's the second thing they're going to say. Now we're going to talk about what the because, how that's going to sound. And then the third part, may I please. May I please. And then they will fill in the blank. So again, those 3. I know you want me to. I have a problem right now with that because. And may I please. So those are the 3 things that are part of this art of persuasion. Now let's look at each one and what that means. The first one, I know you want me to do whatever. That, first of all, helps the child identify with your concerns and your needs and your requests. They're connecting with you. They are letting you know that you have been heard. Remember how important that has been? It's important that they hear you. So that lets you know they have heard what you've asked for. And that when they know that you have been understood, you're more likely to listen to an alternative plan. You're more likely to negotiate something or compromise with something. And so we want to be open to that. Again, this is only when a child has gone down that road of being obedient and honoring you. So the child has to be respectful. At the beginning of the wise appeal, there can be no whining. So it can't sound like this. Are you kidding me? You want me to do whatever? Right now, I don't have time for that. That is not how a wise appeal sounds. And so it is with respect. I know you really want me to wash the dishes right now. And then you go to the second one. But I have a problem with that right now because. And so what that second statement does, it helps the parent to understand the child's predicament. See, that's what we're hoping. That's another key word. They're in a predicament. And they want to be able to express that. We want our kids to be able to tell about their problems and their predicaments. We don't want them to be robotic and just jump whenever somebody sends out command from command control central. We don't want kids who will do that. Imagine how that's going to look later in their life. They need to become their advocate. And so we want them to be understood when they have a predicament. And we want them to develop a reasonable argument for discussion. And this is going to help the child explain her issue or give some kind of complaint about her issue, her predicament. It's a predicament. I like that better than any other word. Rather than problem, issue, complaint, it's a predicament. They're torn between a couple of things. And then we move on to the third thing, may I please. See, those three words are really key. May I please. And this is where the child is offering a creative solution. This is where we want to get with our kids, help them to be problem solvers. They are in a predicament. They need to solve the problem, and they want you to listen to their idea. Okay, so this helps them to be creative with that because it helps them to problem solve. They begin to think, I know she's asked me to do this, but I wonder if she would just listen to my case that I'm going to present to her and let me do it at this time. The child's not arguing about not doing what you want them to do. It's the timing, usually, that is what is in question. And so let's hear how that sounds. So we're going to give some examples of how that sounds in your home. All right, so let's say you have a 7-year-old son, and you have this situation, and you tell the little boy, it's time to clean up your playroom now. We have to leave to go run errands. Clean up the playroom. We have to go run errands. So if he has just now gotten involved with the Lego set, and he has emptied out the box or the bin of all the Legos, and he has just started to build something, and then you tell him it's time to clean up and go, do you see how that gives him a predicament? Now, let's go back, because what I think is always appropriate is coaching your child into behavior. So if you know you're going to run errands, and you know at 30 minutes, then you can give that 30-minute warning, we're getting ready to leave, when the big hand is on 12 and the little hand is on the 10. And so then you need to be ready to go. But if that didn't happen, and all of a sudden a little boy is in the middle of the Legos building it and showing some creativity, and he's being obedient and polite and quiet and playing nicely, and then you tell him to clean up, he may be in a predicament and he wants to give you an appeal. And so let's look at how that might sound. Here's how he would present his argument, his persuasion. He says, I understand. In other words, I've heard you. You want me to clean up now because we have to go out. But I have a problem right now because I just started building something. Could I please, may I please, leave the Legos out until we get home? You see what a simple request is? Now, I know that some of you mamas are like I am, and it's like, we don't leave the house when we have the Legos out. And others are like, oh, who's going to notice the Legos with all the other stuff that's out? So you have to kind of work with that and play with that. I mean, I like things to be nice and tidy when we leave, so when we come back, they're going to be nice and tidy. But see, this is a perfectly reasonable argument. Especially if when he comes back, it is okay to do that. It's okay to begin to play. Again, you're teaching the child to be responsive to you. He's heard you. He's not whining. He didn't stomp his feet. He didn't flail around and wail around and carry on. There was no temper tantrum. It was, oh, Mom, I understand what you've said. You want me to clean up my toys so we can go run errands. See, we want him to tell us they've heard what we said. And then you want him to say, But I just got started in this, and I've just emptied everything out, and I just started building the whatever, the new playground. And so could I just wait and do this when we get back? See, practice doing that with them. Do a role play with a situation like this so that you are teaching your child to be creative with problem solving, because so often children just become robotic and do what you say to do without giving forethought to that. We're not teaching children to be argumentative. We're teaching them to think creatively, problem solve, and advocate. So that's an example. Now, let's talk about how some children might see this as a way to start being manipulative. And they'll think, oh, I can use this a lot. I can use this to get my way in a lot of areas. Well, no, we're not going to let that happen. Again, you want to coach them on when this is appropriate and when it is not. That's also really important when you're thinking about whether this is a request you're making or an instruction, that where there's really no negotiation, that you're headed out the door for wherever. It's hard to know where we can go these days, but you're headed out the door to Walmart. And so when you come home from Walmart, you're going to be doing something else. And so you can't do the Legos. And so you have to navigate through those scenarios. But that's an example there with the Legos. So this ends up being like a contract. I love that. The wise appeal results in a contract between the parent and child. And contracts require trust. And when the child proves to be responsible, then the child earns the privilege of more trust. And this is what we want. And I think if you heard your child say that, I think it would be an opportunity to show some approval and some enthusiasm. Hey, that's a great idea. Thank you. I love that. You don't need to worry with it now, but here's the stipulation. When we get back, you'll have about an hour to play with the Legos, and then we're going to do ABC or whatever. So again, that's just a possible scenario. Let's look at another example. Let's say we have 15-year-old Kate who comes in from school, and mom asked her to clean the family room. And so here is how the conversation might begin. Mom says, "Hi, Kate. Did school go okay today?" And Kate says, "Yes, I had a biology test, but I think I did okay." And so mom says, "Good. Hey, since we're having company tomorrow, I need your help cleaning the family room now." Okay, there is what mom has done. She's given the instruction. I need your help, and she needs it now, and it's in the family room. Now, let's look at different ways that this scenario can play out. Here's one way. This is without the wise appeal. So Kate, after hearing that, is irritated, and she says, "Cleaning? I don't want to do that. Not now." Well, mom's going to feel, the tension here, and she gets intense. She says, "I said, please clean now." And so Kate stomps upstairs to her room and slams the door. Well, now that has been disrespect. She's not obeyed, and she has not honored her mother. And so mom has to yell at the top of the stairs, "Kate, you come down right now. Come now." And so there's yelling, there's stomping, there is disrespect. Now, does that sound familiar to anybody? On every level, it does. On the other hand, let's hear how a wise appeal is going to give Kate the tools to make a persuasive argument and to advocate for herself without stomping off and without yelling. And also this is going to give mom an alternative to losing her temper. So really this works out well for both. So let's see what happens if Kate uses the wise appeal when her mom asked her to clean the family room. And so here's Kate in response. "Mom, I understand you want me to clean the family room, but I've had a really tough day at school and I'm really tired. Can I just rest and do it maybe in 2 hours at 5:30? Mom processes this, decides if this is reasonable, and then comes back with the answer and says, perhaps, sure, why don't you rest, and I'll see you in a little while. So you see how this involves negotiation, conversation, being a little flexible, and deciding if you can be flexible at that time. And so let's say that the answer mom's going to come back with is not, sure, go ahead and have a rest and I'll see you later at 5:30. Let's say that's not it. Mom needs to handle that carefully if she's taught this child the wise appeal, because everything that Kate said was reasonable from Kate's perspective. It showed honor. It showed that she heard her mother. But what it might not do is fit into mom's plan. And so mom has to handle it well. And so remember empathy, sympathy, compassion, and the answer might be, Kate, I hear you, and I'm so sorry you had a bad day. But at 5:30, we're actually going to be whatever. But here, why don't you do this? Why don't you go and take a 30-minute break, take a rest, and then I'll help you do whatever, or whatever the situation may be. So I want to make sure we get both opportunities to say yes to the wise appeal and no but, so that the negotiation can continue. So, let's say that 2 hours comes and it's 5:30 and Kate doesn't show up to clean the room. Let's say that's a possibility too. Then Kate has now lost the privilege of wise appeals. And so Kate needs to know, because this is going to be a named strategy in your home. It's not going to be happenstance. It's going to be something you actually teach your children. You give it a name and you coach them on how to do it. And you tell them this is a privilege. When you do the things I ask you to do, there's going to be an opportunity for you to come to me and say, hey, this maybe is not going to work out for me right now, but would it be okay if? And so you're teaching it. And so make sure that if they don't use the wise appeal appropriately, and they don't do what they have actually creatively come up with as the solution to the problem, then they lose it. They lose it, and they need to know. Now, and then at that point, you need to decide if losing the wise appeal in the future is enough, or there needs to be a consequence for the fact that she did not clean the house when she said that she did. So you have to negotiate through that too. So that is the technique. And I want to make sure you get that strategy. Let me know how that sounds in your home, and how you might use it. So I hope you'll post some ideas about that, and let me know what your thoughts are on how to use that in your home, whether your child is 4 or 5, or whether your child is however old. You know what? Your parents may be using it with you. Think about that. They may be using it with you now. You might use it with your parents. You can use it with a spouse. You can use this with anybody. It will help this child when the child begins to write and they begin to become persuasive in their life outside the home. So I hope that has been helpful for you. I have enjoyed leading you in Mom to Mom over these last few weeks online. I can't wait till we can get back together, and hopefully in the fall we can, but we haven't received word on that yet. The final thing I want you to tell me at the end, if you would just post whether or not your family is going to continue to do online worship, or whether you're going to do live worship at church once we open up, whenever we get the go-ahead. It's going to look very different from what you are accustomed to. You will need to wear a mask. You will be escorted into the worship center, and you will be seated every other row. You'll have 3 seats between you and another family. And so it's going to be a bit different. And I just would like to know if you are going to do live worship or continue online worship for a while. So if you would just write down those words in the comment section, that would be really helpful as we are continuing to do our planning. Okay, folks, it's good to see you all, and I'll see you next week. I'll see you sometime whenever I post the next parent-to-parent videos. Y'all take care.